So there was a people group thousands of years ago. This people group was a special group, not because of them, but because God chose them. He delivered them from slavery in this land called Egypt. And eventually he set up for them a priesthood. You know what a priesthood is? Priests to offer sacrifices to deal with the people's sin. But there was a problem with this system. It wasn't the system given from God that was the problem, but the people were the problem because we're all sinners. And see, what the priests would do, they would take sacrifices and offerings from the people, and they would go into the tabernacle, the tent they had, and eventually the temple they had that God commanded them to build. They would go into there and they would offer the sacrifice. They would come out just to go back in, offer more and more and more sacrifices. They were offering burnt sacrifices. They were offering grain sacrifices. They were offering peace sacrifices. They were offering sin sacrifices. They were offering trespass sacrifices, wave sacrifices. They were doing all this one day a year. They offered this sacrifice on what's called the Day of Atonement. They were constantly going, offering sacrifices. They were constantly on their feet, never sitting down because there was always work to be done. They could go in, offer a sacrifice, come out, someone else. Oh, I've sinned. I brought my offering. I brought my sacrifice. They go in, they come out just to go in and come out. This was their life. But there was a problem with this. They kept doing this, but they could never truly deal with sin. Even the priest himself had to offer sacrifices for himself and then for the people. So just over and over, they're offering these offerings and sacrifices. But is there anything that could truly deal with sin once and for all? And that's what I want to talk about today. Romans chapter 8, verse 34. Who is he who condemns? It is Christ who died, and furthermore is also risen, who is even at the right hand of God, who also makes intercession for us. So remember, Paul, he is encouraging Christians who are suffering and groaning in this world, eagerly awaiting Jesus Christ to come back and redeem the bodies from this earth. They're suffering, they're groaning, and especially because of their own sin. If you are a Christian, you know exactly what I mean. What causes you the most groaning in your life is your own sin, is my own sin. I mean, is it not your greatest desire to never sin again? Because you never want to sin against the one who laid down his life and shed his precious blood for you. Well, we do have a hope that when he comes back and redeems our bodies and we are glorified with Christ, that we won't sin anymore. There will be no more sin in us. But that may be a long way off. So what hope do we have now? And that's what Paul is doing. And remember, he's told, look, every detail in your life is working for your good, from when you are foreknown in eternity past all the way to your glorification. He's like, in light of this, if God is for you, who can be against you? And he begins giving arguments for this. And we have come to this argument. He's like, who is he who condemns? And he's like, it's Christ who died, furthermore is risen. And today we want to look at this, and is at the right hand of God. Jesus Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Now, how does that work? So you're telling me because Jesus Christ is seated at the right hand of God, we can be encouraged that we aren't condemned, and no one can condemn us because Jesus is seated at the right hand of God. How does this work? Well, as I said, in the illustration I gave, which was an actual illustration from the Bible itself, God set up this priesthood, and they continually offered these sacrifices. You know, the writer of Hebrews tells us this. He tells us that, see, the law of this priesthood was only a shadow and a copy of the good things to come. But it said, in these same sacrifices offered year by year, they could never make the worshipers perfect in regard to conscience. Otherwise, they would have ceased to be offered. There would be no reason to keep offering sacrifices if they could truly deal with sin and make the worshiper perfect in regard to conscience. But it says, but no, in these sacrifices, there's a reminder of sin every year, for it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sin. So we're like, man, what hope do we have? I mean, just put yourself back in the Israelite shoes. You're offering these sacrifices year after year after year after year. It's never taken with sin. Your conscience is condemning you. Anyone could condemn you. It's just a reminder of your sin. You're like, oh, for something to take care of this sin once and for all. A few verses later, the writer of Hebrews says this. And every priest, he stands continually. Remember, I said they never sit down. They're always working. Every priest stands continually, offering the same sacrifices repeatedly, which could never take away sins. But this man, speaking of Jesus Christ, this man, after he offered one sacrifice for sins, sat down. He's not on his feet. He sat down at the right hand of God from that time, awaiting for his enemies to be made his footstool. Listen, for by one offering, he has perfected forever those who are being sanctified, or those who are being made holy, those who are being conformed to the image of Christ. By one offering, the one offering of Christ, he has perfected forever those who are being sanctified. So, while every priest was on his feet, offering these sacrifices over and over and over and over, reminding the people of their sin, the people, their consciences condemning them. It even says earlier in Hebrews that the one who offered the sacrifices could not be made perfect in regard to conscience, because the priest himself had to offer sacrifices over and over, reminding them of sin, and they're condemning themselves. Their conscience is condemning them. Anyone could condemn them. What is this? Bulls, ghosts, they can't take away my sin. I'm condemned. I need hope. I need something to deal with my sin problem once and for all, something to give me a clear conscience, something that will just rid this sin where no one can condemn me. And God did that in sending his son. You know, earlier in Hebrews, it says that everything the priest did, they couldn't make the priest perfect in regard to conscience, because they were only concerned with food and drink and various washings and fleshly ordinances until the time of Reformation. But Christ came as a minister of the good things to come, not of a tabernacle of this world, but one that built a tabernacle from God, and not offering sacrifices of bulls and goats, but with the sacrifice of himself, he entered and obtained eternal redemption. Listen, he says, if the blood of bulls and goats, the sprinkling of ashes, sanctified the flesh, how much more will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, listen, cleanse the conscience from dead works to serve the living God. So see, there's a great significance to Jesus Christ being seated at the right hand of God. He's not on his feet. I mean, there's other beliefs. Jesus Christ is in heaven. He's on his feet. He's offering the sacrifices. He's doing it over and over. He's doing the services, doing the work. No, Jesus Christ is seated at the right hand of God because the work is finished. He came. He laid down his life. One offering. He perfected forever those who are being sanctified. One offering. He offered the offering to God. He rose from the dead. He goes into heaven. You can picture him walking down the aisle of heaven, as it were. All of the angels, all of the heavenly hosts bowing to him. And he walks up to his father. And his father is like, son, take a seat. So, Christian, you can be encouraged. There is no condemnation for you. No one can condemn you. Who is there to condemn you? None can. Why? Because he is seated